Welcome to Impact History. Today, we're diving into one of the most dramatic moments in European history, when King Henry VIII broke away from the Roman Catholic Church and established the Church of England. This single decision didn't just change the faith of a nation. It transformed politics, power, and religion across the entire world. If you enjoy exploring how turning points in history shaped our modern world, make sure to like, subscribe, and return for more stories that reveal the lasting impact of history's boldest moves. Henry VIII was born into a kingdom still healing from the brutal Wars of the Roses. His father, Henry VII, had seized the crown and founded the Tudor dynasty, but its grip on power was fragile. Born in 1491, Henry was the second son, the spare, never expecting to rule. While his older brother Arthur was trained in statecraft, Henry received a superb Renaissance education, becoming an accomplished musician, linguist, and theologian. But when Arthur died suddenly in 1502, Henry was thrust into the role of heir. His ascension in 1509 was met with jubilation. He was young, athletic, and charismatic, a symbol of a vibrant new era for England. In these early years, Henry was a paragon of Catholic piety, in an era when the Church was the undisputed spiritual and political authority across Europe. He attended Mass up to 5 times a day and looked to Rome for guidance. When the revolutionary ideas of Martin Luther began to sweep across the continent, Henry didn't just disagree, he took up his pen. In 1521, he co-authored a scathing critique of Luther's reforms, a book that earned him the prestigious title, Defender of the Faith, from Pope Leo X. Guided by his powerful Lord Chancellor, Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, Henry's England seemed a loyal bastion of Catholic orthodoxy. The splendor of his court was legendary, a dazzling display of wealth and culture designed to project Tudor strength. But behind the masks and jousts, a deep-seated anxiety was growing. For a new dynasty, a secure succession was everything. The bloody memory of civil war meant that a male heir wasn't just a personal desire. It was a political necessity to safeguard the kingdom's future. A female ruler was seen as a path to instability and foreign domination. His wife, Catherine of Aragon, was the daughter of Spain's powerful monarchs and the widow of his late brother, Arthur. Their marriage, which required a special papal dispensation, was initially a strong partnership. But it was marked by tragedy. A heartbreaking series of miscarriages, stillbirths, and infant deaths left the royal nursery empty, save for one surviving child, a daughter, Mary, born in 1516. As the years passed without a son, Henry's fear for the Tudor line morphed into a crisis of faith. He became consumed by a passage in the book of Leviticus, which warned that a man who marries his brother's wife would be childless. He began to believe his marriage was not just unlucky, but cursed by God himself. This great matter would set him on a collision course with the Pope and change England forever. When the Pope refused to grant Henry an annulment, Henry took matters into his own hands. In 1534, through the Act of Supremacy, Henry declared himself supreme head of the Church of England, severing ties with the papal authority. Monasteries were dissolved, lands seized, and church wealth transferred to the crown. The English Reformation had begun, not from theology, but from power, politics, and passion. Henry's break set off a wave of religious and political transformations. The dissolution of monasteries weakened the Catholic Church's influence, redistributed wealth, and empowered the nobility and emerging merchant class. This shift planted the seeds of a new social order in England, one that valued loyalty to the crown over the Vatican. Over time, this independence strengthened England's monarchy, eventually paving the way for the rise of constitutional government and modern nationalism. Henry's decision opened the door for Protestant reformers to shape the Church's doctrine in the decades that followed. It created a new identity for England, setting it apart from Catholic Europe. Yet, it also ignited centuries of religious conflict, from the persecution of Catholics under Elizabeth I to the bloody English Civil War and beyond. The English Reformation also encouraged literacy and personal faith, as the Bible was translated into English for the common people. The creation of the Church of England didn't just alter Britain, it reshaped the world's religious map. As England expanded its empire, it carried Anglicanism to the Americas, Africa, and Asia, influencing cultures, laws, and politics across the globe. The tension between personal conscience and institutional authority that began with Henry's break from Rome still echoes in modern society, in debates over freedom, governance, and faith. History is not a straight line, but a river with countless branching streams. The English Reformation was a torrent that reshaped a nation and the world, but what if the current had flowed differently? Let's explore 5 pivotal what-if scenarios, each a glimpse into a world that might have been. 1. What if the Pope had granted Henry VIII an annulment? Imagine a world where Pope Clement VII, less intimidated by Catherine's nephew, the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, decides that placating Henry is the wiser political move. The annulment is granted. England might have remained staunchly Catholic, its cathedrals and parishes never stripped of their ancient rites. The centuries of bitter religious division between Catholics and Protestants that scarred the nation might never have happened. Henry, his great matter resolved, would likely still marry Anne Boleyn, but she would be a Catholic queen, and their daughter, Elizabeth, raised in the Roman faith. Without the precedent of a major kingdom breaking away for political reasons, the Protestant Reformation, already blazing in Germany, may have found its spread curtailed. Its global impact would be significantly weakened, and the religious map of Europe and the world would look profoundly different today. 1. What if Catherine of Aragon had produced a surviving male heir? The Tudor dynasty's greatest anxiety was its own survival. If one of Catherine's sons, perhaps named Henry or Arthur, had lived past infancy, the central crisis of Henry's reign would vanish. His obsession with an heir satisfied, his desire for a divorce, and thus the break from Rome, would likely have evaporated. Anne Boleyn might have remained a charismatic courtier, but never a queen. The young prince, half Spanish, would have tethered England not to reform, but to the powerful Habsburg dynasty. England could have remained firmly aligned with Catholic Spain, altering the entire chessboard of European power. The Spanish Armada would be unthinkable. Instead, English and Spanish fleets might have sailed as allies. This powerful Catholic bloc would have profoundly changed the future of colonial competition, perhaps carving up the new world between them, and stifling the rise of Protestant colonial powers like the Dutch. 1. What if Henry's reform had been purely spiritual instead of political? Suppose Henry, genuinely moved by the arguments of reformers like Martin Luther, had sought change not from dynastic gain, but from conviction. This would not be a break the church, but a reform it. Instead of a violent schism, England might have transitioned into a Protestant-leaning nation peacefully. The dissolution of the monasteries, a land grab that enriched the crown, would not have occurred. Instead, they might have been reformed from within, becoming centers of learning and piety under a new doctrine. Without the political treason charges, figures like Thomas More could have remained loyal critics, not martyrs. This would have fundamentally changed English governance. Without the immense wealth from monastic lands, the crown would be far more dependent on Parliament for funds, potentially accelerating the journey towards a constitutional monarchy by centuries. The tone of English faith would be less defined by royal decree and more by theological debate. 1. What if the Church of England had collapsed after Henry's death? Henry's new church was built on his personal will. After his death, it was fragile. Imagine if the Protestant reforms under his son, Edward VI, were met with a successful Catholic uprising. Or more plausibly, what if Mary I's reign had been longer, and her marriage to Philip II of Spain had produced a Catholic heir? The English experiment would be over. The Catholic Church could have reasserted absolute control, bringing England back into the Roman fold for good. Elizabeth I might have been bypassed in the succession or deposed, her reign a mere footnote. Consequently, the rise of Elizabeth's golden age, an era of explosive cultural confidence, artistic genius, and daring exploration, might never have happened. Without the nationalistic fervor and anti-Spanish sentiment that defined the period, England could have become a cultural and political satellite of Spain, its global ambitions extinguished before they ever truly began. 1. What if the English Reformation had inspired earlier democratic movements? The Reformation's core idea was revolutionary, that individuals could have a direct relationship with God, unmediated by a priestly hierarchy. Placing the Bible in the hands of the common person in their own language encouraged them to read, interpret, and question. What if this questioning of ultimate spiritual authority had immediately bled into the questioning of ultimate political authority? The questioning of the Pope could have quickly become the questioning of the King. Radical groups demanding parliamentary power and personal freedoms, ideas that flared up a century later in the English Civil War, might have emerged in the 1500s. The Tudor monarchy would have met such challenges with force, potentially sparking a civil war generations earlier. But if these democratic movements had succeeded, England could have evolved into a constitutional monarchy long before the Glorious Revolution of 1688, becoming a beacon of liberty in an age of absolutism, and fundamentally altering the timeline of modern democracy. The story of Henry VIII and the birth of the Church of England is one of power, pride, and profound transformation. It's a saga that began in the heart of a king, but ultimately reshaped a nation's soul and redrew the map of the world. It reminds us that history often changes course not through grand, abstract ideals, but through the very human and often messy intersection of personal desire and political necessity. Henry's desperate quest for a male heir was not merely a private matter. It was a crisis of state, a deep-seated fear for the future of the fragile Tudor dynasty. His refusal to yield to the Pope was an act of personal will that became a declaration of national sovereignty, unleashing forces that no one, not even the king himself, could fully control. The dissolution of the monasteries was more than an act of religious reform. It was a revolutionary redistribution of wealth and power. A fifth of the land in England changed hands, creating a new class of gentry whose fortunes were inextricably tied to the crown and the new church. This seismic shift laid the economic foundations for a new kind of England, one looking outward, away from continental Europe. From these tumultuous origins, the Anglican Church emerged, a unique middle way between Catholicism and radical Protestantism. This compromise, born of political expediency, would be carried across the oceans. Today, the Anglican Communion is a global family of tens of millions, stretching from Canterbury to Cape Town, from Toronto to Tokyo. Its diversity is a testament to the reach of Henry's legacy, yet it also grapples with internal divisions that echo the very compromises made 5 centuries ago. The ripples of Henry's defiance still shape our modern world in other fundamental ways. His assertion of supremacy over the Church established a principle of national sovereignty that has defined English and British identity ever since. The ongoing debates we have today about the role of religion in public life, the separation of church and state, and the limits of institutional power, find their roots in the crisis that Henry precipitated. His story serves as a powerful reminder that the choices of individuals in power, driven by conviction, fear, or ambition, can have consequences that cascade across generations, creating legacies that are both brilliant and brutal. Thank you for watching Impact History. The echoes of Henry's great matter are all around us, in our laws, our global institutions, and the very fabric of modern faith. If you enjoyed this journey through the Tudor age and its enduring global legacy, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our explorations into the past. We invite you to return for more stories that change the course of civilization.